welcome to the one and only Team 2.
Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, October, 21st, 2024. And it's going to be an eventful one, isn't it? Plenty to unpack after yesterday's fight in Orlando, Florida. Tim Tszyu, of course, stopped in the third round by Bakram Murtazaliev in what turned out to be a very, very dominant performance. So there's a lot of comments already in the chat there, guys, so bear with me as I get through them. But yeah, I mean, I've probably said a fair bit about it so far, so I won't spend too much time talking about the fight and the aftermath and different thoughts, because if you follow the channel, you would see that I did the review yesterday and as well as Walking Boxing today, where I think I covered a fair bit. But I'm sure there's going to be a fair few things you would like to bring up, and happy to discuss it. That's why we're here. So, and I know it's probably, even looking at a couple of comments there, there's probably a little bit of emotion out there. I get it. A lot of different, differing opinions. I understand it. And even today, reading a lot of the social media stuff, there's some pieces of work out there that just took absolute delight in the fact that Tim was stopped the way he did. And look, the thing is, the only thing I'll say before we get into it is that, look, it's a tough sport. Everyone's entitled to their opinion on what happened yesterday, as long as it's not personal. I understand there's people out there that say that he was overhyped and in over his head and hadn't beaten anyone and unproven. I get all that, and that's fine. That's your opinion. But the personal attacks, I'm not really liking that at all. Try and keep it the personal stuff out of it, and have your say. That's what we're here for. So, guys, I'm going to go through the comments as they stand. I've got my phone here because they come up in order on my phone. Where on the chat here, initially, they are all over the place. So let's start with Damien, and I'm just going to maybe read them out rather than put them up on the screen just yet. Actually, yeah, no, I'll do that. All right, so we've got the first one. Damien, damn, you looked devastated during yesterday's live. There's no way anyone's seen that result coming. Destroyed in under 3 rounds is insane. I hope you take some time off and rebuilds back home. Yeah, I wouldn't say devastated, Damien. Looked really, really disappointed. As an Aussie boxing fan, I've been involved or following boxing for about 40 years now, so it takes a bit more than that to devastate me. But I was just devastated, I suppose, for him, and just like everyone out there, I was just in shock. Not the fact that he lost, and I think I've said at this level, you're going to lose eventually. Shit happens, you lose. The interesting thing for me though was, or the shock thing for me was the fact in the way he was just dismantled by Murtazaliev. That was tough to sort of comprehend. Like, for probably about half of the first round, he was competitive. Murtazaliev did sort of box and move and just spear out a few jabs just to get a bit of a look at Tim. But geez, when he started to put those feet down and start to trade a little bit, Tim just had no answer. And that's probably the thing that I'm struggling to get my head around. The dominant fighter that we'd seen. I know there's levels in the sport, don't get me wrong, but I suppose you have to call it the ease in which Murtazaliev just completely blew Tim away. That's what caught me off guard. I didn't expect it. I knew he was dangerous. I did obviously tip or predict that Tim would win, but I'm happy to wear that, by the way. But it was the way he was just blown out of there, just completely never in the fight, just blown away. That's what I was really in shock about, Damien. But As I said, I've been around for about 40 years in the sport, so I think the only time I've really been devastated might have been when Jeff Fanny got knocked out by Azuma Nelson in the second fight. and Barry Michael beat Lester Ellis as well. But there's probably been a few others, but they're the ones off the top of my head. I was probably just a young kid, and it got the better of me. All right, we'll keep going there. Still with Damien. Got a couple from you there, Damien. It'll be incredible if he goes to Russia and gets trained by his dad. Why the hell not? It will be a brutal training under a great mind. Keep Glenn Jennings. Yeah, I'm a big one for keeping Glenn. Damien, I think, and No Limit to that extent. I know they've copped it big time as well, and I know they've got a lot of people offside with some of the things they've done, and the fact they charged $70 yesterday, where it was free everywhere else. I understand that, but as promoters, I don't really think they've put a foot wrong with Tim. I really don't. I think they've built him up to be a star here in Australia and the world. They've got him every single big fight that he's ever chased, given him multiple opportunities in there. And as much as we might not like not me I'm talking about, but much as some people might not like the Rose Boys personally or professionally, whatever it might be, I don't think we can really fault the job they've done. I don't think there's anything that maybe Tim's looked to do and they haven't been able to pull off for him. So, yeah, I'm not one for that. But as far as going to train in Russia, well, hey, maybe that's what he's got to do if he's going to maintain his hunger for the sport and do something a little bit out there to try and kickstart his career again. Maybe it is, rather than moving to Las Vegas, maybe it's moving to Russia. I don't know. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but maybe if he is serious about his career, maybe that's the call he's going to make. As I said, I don't think he will. Look, maybe what he might do is still base himself in Las Vegas and maybe get some other training in there. I don't know. And look, to be honest with you, I don't really know that much about his Uncle Igor anyway. I don't really know much about his background apart from when he came in to train the boys. I don't know if he's got an extensive coaching background. Maybe he was part of the team. I think that might have been the case when Costa was around. I'm not sure. But it's like in football or whatever. It's one thing to be an assistant coach. It's another thing to be in the big chair. So I don't know. I haven't been involved in his camp, so I'm not going to pass judgments. But all things point to maybe not necessarily the team outside the ring. It's the team inside the ring. So time will tell. A couple more with Damien we'll get through. Please, for the love of God, ditch No Limit today. A disgrace. Well, obviously you didn't read the comment before I just mentioned that, Damien. Hey, it's your opinion. You can say what you want. Matt Rose is the only okay thing about them. I liked his interview yesterday. I was very impressed with his interview, Damien. It would have been very hard for him. After the fight, I think I've had my say on that. I don't know why they wheeled him out there straight afterwards. Apparently he wanted to go. I don't know why. I understand he probably thought he owed it to everyone to get out there. But look, the first two questions were no comment. Can't recall, whatever it might have been. The next two answers were very, very short and sharp answers anyway. Obviously his head would have still been spinning. I think that would have been the time to say, Tim, I know you're pretty much the boss of this whole organisation, but you're not going out there. You're going to the hospital. I think sometimes it's okay for Tim to run his own show and be the man of his own corporation, if you will, but that would have been the time for either No Limit or Glenn or even Nikita to say, or Costa, you're not going out there, Tim. You're going to the hospital, and then we'll worry about it later. I understand that you're conscious of what everyone's thinking out there. They might want you to comment on what happened, but we all saw what happened. What else could he possibly add? What could Tim Tszyu add that we didn't see in the ring 15 minutes before? That's why I don't agree with it. All right, one more from Damien. There's no other promoter that would have had that fight against Fundora and come back right back to fight a nobody in front of nobody. Yeah, there was nobody there, was there? Not fight back at home in front of a massive crowd against an okay boxer. Yeah, look, one thing I will say, I don't know what they were thinking about putting the fight there. I mean, it was lucky to be 1,000 people there. It was very, very odd. And it's arguable about putting him in with someone like that so soon after Fundora. We didn't say that beforehand, did we? Not many people are out there saying, hey, this is a really bad fight for Tim. I think everyone was applauding him, if anything, or No Limit, saying, hey, how good are these guys? They've got him a world title fight after he's just lost his last one. How good is he? Or these guys, how good are No Limit? What promoters are they now that he's lost? All of a sudden it's No Limit's fault. You got to remember, Tim would have been the one probably saying, get me back in there. I want to put the Fundora thing behind me. Get me back in there. I'm ready to go. Get me the biggest fight. No Limit have delivered a world title fight after a loss. I think they've done a really, really good job. And maybe we've got to stop pointing the fingers at all these other people. Maybe it's a matter of pointing the finger at Tim and saying, maybe Tim should have known better. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. All things are welcome tonight. Put all different angles in there and let's discuss it. All right, I'm going to go through here because I'm sick of reading off my phone. All right, Double G. What's with the interaction between Tim and Costa in that short, no limit hand wrapping video? Seemed like whatever Costa was saying really seemed to distract him. I've got to agree with that, Double G. Now, apparently what happened is that there was something I think that Costa's mother used to say to him or something along those lines, and he probably felt that was the time to say it to Tim. I agree with you. It was a little bit, oh, geez, is this really what he should be doing? You got to remember, the boys haven't really had much to do with Costa for a long, long time, off and on. Nikita hadn't seen him for 11 years. Tim had seen him a couple of times. Neither boy had had the relationship with the dad. So it might have felt a little bit awkward from Tim's behalf to have Costa getting pretty emotional and, pretty in-depth, I suppose, about these things. Maybe what might have been a better time is maybe for all the guys to reconnect, have a beer or a coffee, whatever it might be, or some lunch or whatever it might be, and reconnect and get a little bit more comfortable with each other and then maybe come out with something like that. I just think Tim seemed really, really awkward about the whole situation. I don't think it really would have affected his performance, Double G, just like the tap on the head when he looked at his gloves. Look, I think we're reading too much into it. I think at the end of the day, it was that left hook from Murtazaliev that was the difference. Not any talks before the fight or little bumps on their head or whether he was thinking about buying the house in Vegas. I don't know. Sorry about that. I just think it was more of a case of him just running into a freight train on the night. All right. What was that one about Nikita I saw there? I read it was actually Nikita who threw the towel. If that's true, then what was Igor doing? I know he rushed up at the end, but that was after someone else threw it. How long was he going to wait? I'm with you there, Double G. I wasn't aware of that until I read about that today myself. It shouldn't be Nikita's job. It should be the head trainer to throw the towel in at the end. I know that's only a small thing. It's a token thing. I get that. Maybe Nikita threw it in without even being told. I don't know. But in my opinion, when it comes to this, the head trainer, if you are the head trainer, screw what everyone else is saying around you. That's the reason you are the head trainer. And it should have been the head trainer throwing in this case, Igor, throwing the towel in to end the fight. Get in there and give Tim a hug and put your arms around him. And yeah, it just seemed odd that was the case from, that was actually Nikita throwing the towel in there. All right, Peter, let's go to you. Where are we there? All right. Zoo, welcome, by the way, Peter. Zoo totally disrespected and looked through his opponent and paid the price. Maybe Zoo can give Opataya a call and learn what true champions do and learn to stay in the moment. Yeah, look, Peter, some might say that's a little bit harsh, but hey, mate, you're more than welcome to have your say here. Yeah, look, that has been, a little bit of the word since yesterday is that maybe Tim got a little bit ahead of himself and maybe disrespected Murtazaliev and was probably looking at all these future fights and relocating to Vegas and all these stadium fights in Australia and everything that was going on, and just maybe got a little bit distracted. And there's one person that hasn't had that case yet, as you said there, is Opataya. Now, a little bit different with Jai and Tim there, Peter. The only thing I'll say why I think it's a little bit different with Jai. Jai's, and this is what I'm actually against this, by the way, but in Australia has never really had all the media and the adulation that Tim's got. I don't think I've seen this type of adulation for an Australian fighter since Jeff Fennick. Universally loved. No one came close over the journey. Now, I know people might say, what about Kostya? I still say a Russian fighter based in Australia. Yes, we all loved him, admired him, but I'm talking about homegrown Australian fighter, and I don't think an Australian fighter has really captivated the Australian boxing public like Tim Tszyu since Jeff Fennick. And Jai Opataya, I don't agree with it again, but that's with him. He's never really had the pressure. He's never really had that on. Now, you might say, well, he's chosen not to, get a little bit Hollywood eyes, I suppose you'd call it. And that's for another argument. But I think the way Jaya Pattaya maybe locks himself away, doesn't get involved in anything, he keeps that eye of the tiger, doesn't let anything distract him at all. Maybe that's something that Tim can learn from Jaya, in that don't do all these interviews with the Australian media in the lead up to it. Do what you got to do, and then at a certain point say, that's it, boys, I'm out. I mean, he was doing interviews pretty much right up to a day or so before the fight. So that's what I would probably say. Now, no, there's probably clauses in contracts and all that sort of stuff. You've got to do a certain amount of media. I think there should be a line drawn in the sand there somewhere that maybe that's his way of maybe getting back on track if he is going to relocate to America. Cut out all the media to a certain point. Stop doing all the podcasts and everything, maybe 6 weeks out, and just put your mind to the job and focus on what you have to do. Like, I think he's going to learn a lot out of this. Whether it's enough, I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm doubtful he can come back from it. I really hope I'm wrong. I really do. But when you get knocked out that way, very hard. We talked about the mental scars from Fundora. That's nothing compared to what the mental scars are going to be after this fight. It's as simple as that. And hopefully, as I said, I'm wrong and he can come back. But it's a long, long way back for Tim Tszyu. Asbot, yeah, a little bit overconfident. Got complacent, got careless, fought a dumb fight. Absolutely think he can come back once he sees his mistakes. Well, let's hope so, Asbot. And again, I really hope he can, but when it's not like, I mean, we wiped the Fundora fight, I know, but it's not like, excuse me, you've lost a close decision. You know, you've been outpointed, whatever it might be. I mean, yesterday, we can sugarcoat it all we want. It was a wipeout. And again, that's what shocked me so much, was the way it happened. Was he complacent? Maybe. Look, in the week of the fight, let's face it, there was more talk about everything but Murtazaliev than the fight itself. Murtazaliev barely got a mention. And the only probably words maybe Tim had about Murtazaliev was probably a little bit negative about Murtazaliev as well. There wasn't any really praise about him, and I know that's maybe what the promoters and the organisers were wanting him to do, because Murtazaliev gave nothing. But in hindsight, he was just tunnel vision, wasn't he? And that's the reason we didn't get much out of him. And he's a scary dude. Make no mistake about that. I've got a feeling that Tim just didn't give Bakram Murtazaliev just that respect that he really deserved. And I'll admit it, I didn't. I know a lot of you guys out there didn't either. I thought it was a great pick by No Limit to get the fight with Murtazaliev, get a belt around your waist, and then look at those other big fights. And it blew up in his and all our faces as well. So, as far as the fight itself, it wasn't the smartest fight, Asbot. I'm gonna back you with that. I'm not sure whether he just had it in his mind that he would walk Murtazaliev down. I know it's been a lot of people have made the point that against guys like Ocampo and Mendoza and Harrison, he moved the head a lot more. He was a lot more patient. He wasn't patient against Ocampo, but you got to remember Ocampo's a C-level fighter. Murtazaliev, I thought, was maybe B+. He's an A-level fighter. We looked at yesterday. Big difference. And I just think he probably adapted that mindset from those fights, wanted to make that big statement after Fundora, and just walked into one. Just walked into a big shot, and that just completely just ended the fight right there. Sorry, guys. I'll keep moving on a little bit here. I'm a little bit behind. I know that. I did see Carl there. Where are you there, Carl? Where's your comment? All right, there it is. G'day, Lynden. Gutted. Yes. But hey, it's boxing. Yep, not quite sure what I watched on the weekend, but it was terrible. On a brighter note, Matteo Tapia were very lucky to get a majority draw. Talk about lucky, Carl. I just don't see how he got anywhere near it, if I'm being honest, and that's not taking anything away from the performance of Matteo Tapia, the heart that he showed, but he's no way he drew that fight, Carl. I had it 6 rounds to 4 for Saavedra, plus an extra 2 points for the 3 knockdowns versus 1. I had him winning by 4 points. And even if I was maybe going to have a swing round or 2 or something to Matteo Tapia, I still don't think he got anywhere near it. So, but hey, he lives to fight another day. I think they were very relieved afterwards. I saw the interview with Mike Altamura and Matteo Tapia, of course, and I think they were very happy to get away with the draw. And maybe they'll do it again here in Australia. We'll see. All right, Peter, we'll go back to you. I'm sorry, guys. I've just got to get past these first few, and then we'll be right. Peter, maybe Zoo was too interested in pressing his dad, and maybe his dad needs to stay away. Can't blame his corner. They told him to watch the right and set up the left hook. That loss is on Tim. Yeah, I couldn't sort of hear a lot between rounds, Peter. Of course, I had to have the volume down a little bit. I did sort of see and read that a little bit as well. A lot of other people saying that he was a little bit stubborn in what he was trying to do. The corner was saying one thing, he was doing another. As far as impressing his dad, look, maybe you could make an argument for that, but look, I just know from experience that when you're in the ring, all that stuff is forgotten about. Any issues or problems or dramas or whatever it might have been outside the ring and lead up to the fight, when that bell rings, you're focused on the opponent in front of you. And Tim is a world-level professional fighter. The fact his dad was sitting at ringside and maybe had a word to him, I don't wear that, Peter. I really don't. Tim's always been so focused. I don't think something like that's going to distract him from the job. I think at the end of the day, mate, he was careless, got hit with a left hook and didn't recover, and that is it. And I think we can put so many spins on things and all these different opinions and excuses, whatever you might want to, call it. For me, I think he wasn't 100% switched on to the opponent in front of him. Subconsciously, he was distracted by a lot of things going on around him. Got careless, got caught with a left hook, and that was end of story. All right, Asbot, where are you there, mate? Tim going to Russia with his dad. Hell yes, freaking awesome idea. Yeah, well, maybe. Tim doesn't have the chin to match his style. Okay, well, there's another way of looking at it there, Carl. Yeah, look, I know that's also been said as well, that he's a bit chinny. I mean, those punches he got hit with, they hit him right on the button. And they were punches he didn't see. I'm a little bit like that, if I'm being honest there, Carl. I just think he got hit with a great shot. And it just, as I said, he didn't see it coming, and that was it. And once you get hit like that and knocked down, I mean, his head would have been spinning. He would have been wondering where he was, and his punches coming at him everywhere. It was just over. I know he was knocked down, 4 times. It was over after the first knockdown. It was done. The look in his eyes and the way his eyes sort of rolled back in his head when he went down, that shock horror look on his face, it was over right there and then. And I think he actually done pretty well to last that second round, if I'm being honest. All right, Big J, where are you? I can see your comment there. All right, Big J. Hi, mate. I saw this beating coming from Tim about 3 years ago. Okay, well, you're a better man than what I am. Didn't think it would happen at this stage, but I remember saying that Charlo would KO Tim just like Murtazaliev did yesterday. Yeah, I must admit, I didn't see it coming like that, Big J. As I said, I thought you're always open to a loss at this level. I didn't see that coming at all, getting knocked out like he did. Just did not see it coming. All right, still with Big J. I think you got a couple of comments there. Sorry, mate. I'll just read it. There we go. All right. Bean saying Tim has never really been hit, even in the Fundora fight before, and had no idea how to handle it, and it certainly improved. Well, I will say the defensive aspect of Tim left a lot to be desired. No, he couldn't hold. He couldn't clinch. He was sort of reaching, which made it even easier for Murtazaliev to target him. You got to remember what's happening in that situation is that it's just a blur. Tim would have just seen the world just going around and round and round in front of him. There would have been lefts and rights coming from everywhere. Very, very hard to get your equilibrium back and your focus back when that's happening. When you're already buzzed and you've got punches coming at you from everywhere and the crowd's cheering and the lights are up and down and left and right and all over the place. Very, very tough to recover. And as I said, as soon as that first knockdown happened, it was pretty much over then. And I mean, he had in between rounds, he even had an extra 30 or 40 seconds after that second round. But you could just tell by the look in his face that he just wasn't there. The lights were on, but nobody was home. You could just see it. And I understand they had to give him full opportunity to get back into the fight. And he did look okay for the first probably 30 seconds. But as soon as he got hit with one more punch, that was it again. So, as I said, very hard to come back from that. Double G. Oh, what's that? Not happy about it. Big J. You was absolutely gloating about the derailment of the hype train on T Street controversy. At least be consistent and bring that same energy over here. Okay, well, I didn't see the T Street controversy, but that's okay. We'll have a chat about that as well. Sure, Big J will back up his comments there. Where's Mutsy? I saw him there. All right, Mutsy, do you reckon he's been listening to too many yes men, or maybe trying to put on a show for his old man? Either overestimated himself or underestimated Murtazilov. Either way, I think a bit of both there. Mutsy, I'm just going to try and find your comment there for a sec. As far as the yes men goes, very possible, Mutsy. Very possible. I mean, he is Tim Zoo. He's a superstar here in Australia. He's called a lot of his own shots. I don't know. Look, it's hard for me to comment on Mutsy because I'm not part of the team, so I probably won't. Yeah, I won't make further comment about that. Only him and his team know that. I would think that Glenn Jennings has been around long enough. Of course, he was with Costa Zoo for so long. I don't think Glenn's the type of guy that's going to be sort of bossed around and just patting Tim on the back all the time. Maybe No Limit have. I don't know, because that's it. He's the man for No Limit. He is it for No Limit. So maybe I don't know. Well, I suppose we can just guess. All right, Eminem, where are you there, mate? About Ericsson. There it is. Seen Ericsson Lubin had already signed his part to fight Tim in Australia in December. I did read that, Eminem. It's interesting. The fight was done. He'd apparently signed to fight Tim in late December. That's obviously not going to happen now. And, he was ready to go. And he just said, well, looks like I'm looking to fight somebody else now. So that's what I said on my video this morning. And if you didn't see it, I made the point of that. It was Rocky 3 where he says, how did everything that was so good get so bad? And that's never been more prevalent in this case. Talking about Lubin in December, they're talking about the NRL thing in Las Vegas in February or March, I think it was. And now all of a sudden, all those elite or top level fighters over there pretty much saying, lose my number, I'm not interested. And this is where everyone's favourite journalist, Peter Bedell, was spot on. He said this will set back Tim 2 years. And I think he's right. Now, I know a lot can happen. You're only as good as the last fight, and you might get a couple of quick comeback fights. I don't think he should fight for 6, 8, even 9 months, if I'm being honest. That was such a bad knockout. But once he gets past that, maybe he's got to get a little bit more of a hurry on. I think he's 30 pretty soon. So, yeah, maybe he just needs a couple of tune-ups. I'm not sure. But it's how quick that he's just been dropped. And let's keep a look at PBC. I know they've apparently said they're going to hang on to Tim. I don't know. They companies like that only want you if you're of value to them. And at the moment, I don't like to say it, but Tim's no value to PBC. Damaged goods. Look at Michael Zarafa, dropped in 2 seconds, gone. Don't need your bud. We'll call you, don't call us. And he was dropped after the Lara fight. And in this instance here, 2 losses in a row. I think I'm not sure they would go down that extent of saying, that's it, sorry, you're out of here. I'm pretty sure, though, they would say, Tim, go back to Australia or fight on an undercard or something over here, and let's talk in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, whatever it's going to be, when you've got a couple of wins under your belt. All right, Asbot, I'll go back to your comment there. Where was it? Just rewatched the Fundora fight. Tim was much more cautious, smart, measuring with Fundora and Mendoza, who's not as strong as Berkram. He just didn't bring his usually smart, patient self into the ring. Yeah, a lot of reasons for that, Asbot. Look, you got to remember too that Murtazaliev, the way he started might have offset Tim a little bit, that he didn't expect him to come out like he did. I mean, he's very cautious at the start, Murtazaliev. He got on his toes even. Poked out a few jabs, moved, and then all of a sudden, it was like he like at a certain point of the round, he planted the feet and let a couple go, and you can see the look on Tim's face, and maybe that stunned him in that meantime. Maybe the whole game plan is something they didn't expect. I don't know. Or maybe the more obvious thing is that simply Tim went out there and just thought he had Murtazaliev covered and fought accordingly, and just paid the price. And as I said, you can overanalyze it as much as you want. I think we've just got to really boil it down, is that maybe that's the case. Tim underestimated him. got caught early, paid the price, and that is history. So it's got nothing to do with anything else. He just ran into a freight train on the night and come off second best. And I reckon that's the way they're looking at it as well. To hear, we haven't heard or seen Tim talk after the fight yet, apart from the 2 minutes that they rolled him out. We haven't heard Glenn Jennings talk, as far as I know. We did see the Matt Rose interview, which was great. I think we just got to let the dust settle for a week or so, and then I'm sure all will come out. And I think Tim would be the first one to say that maybe I'll look past Murtazaliev. All right, Peter, where are you there? All right, I'm just going to go down the comments here. Peter says, Tim is nothing like his father, who was on another level to his kids. Yeah, well, we'll only know at the end of their careers, Peter, but, you know, maybe the expectations on Tim have just been too much so far. I know he's delivered up until this point. I get that. But here in Australia, let's face it, and we love Tim, but he's been put on this pedestal so high. We're talking next year, you know, Canelo, Crawford, Spence. We're just going to roll them out. We're going to knock over them one after the other. And we're going to move to Vegas and we're going to buy a house and we'll probably end up in movies after the career's over. I don't know. I'm just making that bit up. But you know what I mean? Like, maybe we've been the problem with him with it over here, and maybe internally it's been a lot different, because Tim up to this point's always been pretty measured, pretty level-headed. And there has been some talk that maybe since the American things happened, he's gone and obviously had the fight earlier this year and then basing himself over there for this year. Maybe he's just changed him a little bit. Maybe, again, referencing Rocky movies, maybe he's got to go back and try and get the eye of the tiger and get right away from everything and just start again. I don't know. But look, at the moment, of course, he's nothing like his father, but now the challenge is up to him to get his career back on track. Costa did it after the Vince Phillips loss. A little bit different to this one, because Costa wasn't blown away in that fight. Again, I think he underestimated Vince Phillips. He got caught. The strategy, he had that chin up in the air, wasn't bringing the left hand back and kept wearing overhand rights until it wore him down. But he was able to recover and get back and become undisputed. So I'm sure that's the challenge now for Tim. All right, we'll get down these comments here. All right, Andrew, how are you there, mate? Couldn't believe we all got it so wrong. Even the betting agencies rewatched his fight with Colkay. No way the guy who fought Colkay could have beaten Tim. I think that guy was his twin. Well, I think I said in one of the videos, Andrew, I watched the Colkay fight this week or last week, whatever it was, and that's what I thought. There's no way this guy's beating Tim. The Tim that I saw against Fundora for the first 2 rounds and the Tim we've seen back here in Australia for so long, well, there's no way. Tim's too much of a sharpshooter for this guy. Yes, mate, we were wrong. All right, Big J. I truly believe that this is going to be the beginning of the end for Tim and No Limit. Too many title contenders losses, and if Tim doesn't get mentally okay from that cut, he's done. I think too much has been read into the cut, Big J. I really do. I just think the reaction when he touched his head, I mean, everyone's been, oh my God, look at him. He's got PTSD from the cut. Any fighter would have reacted that way. They bumped heads. He had a quick look and then got on with the job. I don't think that had anything to do with it at all. And I don't think the Fundora fight really had anything to do with it at all either. I mean, he said himself right the way through, he's never felt better. So I don't really read into the Fundora stuff too much. As for No Limit, is it the end? No, I think they've just got to reinvent themselves, Big J. It could be the end. Who knows? I said again on my video this morning that it wasn't just a massive L for Tim. It was a massive L for No Limit. They've got to regroup. They've got to reinvent themselves. They've got to go back to the drawing board. Because at the moment, they're probably sitting back and thinking, well, where do our careers go? You know, the whole being at the moment is pretty much based on what Tim does. I know there's a lot more coming through, but the fact they probably haven't worked harder to get the Jai Patayas on board and the Maloneys on board and the Camboses on board and the Paros on board, even the girls on board. They haven't worked hard enough to get those guys, because I must admit, if I was in their position and had the contracts that they have with Foxtel and Main Event and all the resources and backing, they've got the media in their back pocket, they've got all the resources you could possibly have. and they haven't made a play for any of those fighters, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. So I would hope they would be sitting back saying, well, we have to reevaluate where we're at. Maybe we've got, I know a lot of the fighters are under contract, but maybe we've got to swallow our pride and go to some of the managers and promoters of these elite guys and say, hey, can we work in together? Because up until now, they've pretty much shut them out. So I don't know whether the door's shut for good, but we talk about Tim having to reassess everything. Well, No Limit's in the same boat. I think they can do it. They just have to have the right mentality to do it. They have to swallow their pride. They have to call all these guys, as I said, managers, promoters, the fighters, whoever it is, and have sit-downs and try and build that stable back. Because when you think about it, with all the resources that No Limit have, it's actually a travesty that they don't have the Jais and the Liams and the Maloneys and the Cambosises all under their umbrella. And even if fighters like the Maloneys with Top Rank and Cambosis with DeBella and Paro and Opataya with Matchroom, why they couldn't at least work in with the Eddie Hearns and those types of guys and Bob Arams and get something in place to have him here in Australia and work something out with the pay-per-views and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, a lot of soul searching to do right across the board. Big J. I think I covered that before. Damien. Keep going through the comments there. All right, I was waiting for this one. Eminem took that clown Zarafa a matter of minutes after Tim's loss yesterday to start posting about a fight with him. Yeah, well, I was interested, Eminem, about how Michael Zarafa would approach this, whether he would take the humble approach and say, well, a fellow Aussie lost and that's bad, not great, and Tim, No Limit, I'm here. If you want that fight, I'm here. I'm ready to make it. Let's do it. I respectfully say now's the best time to do it. Let's go. Or there was the other way, which we ended up getting, of course, where he would say, you know what, screw Tim Tszyu. I bloody told you he was a hype job and he was overrated and nowhere near as good as his old man, and I'm going to end his career. Hey, look, I've had my differences with Michael over the journey, but he talks up a good fight, and he had all the media all over it today. And look, he's the big winner out of this, because I'll openly admit, I thought there was absolutely no hope in hell that Tim Tszyu would ever fight Michael Zarafa. Why would he ever need Michael Zarafa? And here we are, a day after the fight, and Michael Zarafa is in the hot seat. He is in the box seat to get the fight with Tim Tszyu, and many people now saying, I think he's got a chance. I think he's going to knock Tim out. He is the winner, or the holder of the lucky golden ticket, is Michael Zarafa. And I think goes against everything I've said in probably the last 12 months. I think the fight happens now. I don't necessarily think it's going to be next up. I think they will want Tim to have a comeback fight against a lesser light to get his confidence back. Maybe Michael fights on the undercard against another lesser light. We get a win under both their belts, and then we build it. That's the way I think they should do it. Maybe wait until March or April, whatever it might be. Get Tim, just whoever, a journeyman. Get Michael Zarafa a journeyman, and let's go. I think the Nikita fight is done now. And even Michael said himself, I'm not interested in Nikita anymore. I want the big dog. I want the big brother. I want Tim Tszyu. And I think he's going to get him. So that, if I was No Limit, would be the strategy for me. Get them both on a card. Get them an easy win each. I remember back in the day, I remember Mundine and Green did it in Perth. They both got on there, had good wins, and then they fought afterwards and got the crowd revved up, and I think that's the play. But we will see. We will see. All right. I'll comment on that one. I'll keep going down the comments. I think I've got through those early ones. All right. You were bang on in your call of the fight. It was a bad decision to keep walking forward in the third round. Well, I was flabbergasted, Carl, and by all accounts, it wasn't the corner's fault. They said to actually move and take your time, take a round off. And Tim, look, I don't know whether it was him being stubborn or he was just out of it and he was just on autopilot. That's the only thing I can think of. Because even when he was walking forward, There was no head movement. There was no jabbing to the head or jabbing to the body. There was nothing. It was walk forward, and I'm going to get this guy out of there. And I think the latter. I think he was on autopilot. I really do. And I've been there myself. I've been buzzed and can't remember anything about the fight or sparring session, whatever it might be. And you're literally just going through the motions and just pretty much waiting to get knocked out. Because as soon as he started to come forward, Murtazaev just would have been licking his lips and just waited for his opportune time. And the last knockdown was the same as the first knockdown. That check hook, bang, right on the button. Just a beautiful shot. And Tim just didn't see it coming, and that was it. And I think he did a magnificent job even getting up. I will say, though, after that first knockdown of the third round, it should have been over right there and then. Either the referee waved it off. I would have thought the corner would have said, right, amongst themselves, that is. I'm sure they would have said to Tim, take the round off and get through it. But I think amongst themselves, the conversation would have been, if he gets rocked or knocked down here again, we're gonna chuck it straight away. No one did it. They let him go on, and I thought he took probably 6, 7, 8 big punches that he just didn't need to take. And maybe that was when Nikita said enough of this shit and just threw the towel in. We'll soon find out everything, I suppose. What's that, Peter? Opetaia is the most disrespected fighter by the media I have ever seen. Yeah, it's an injustice, Peter. It really is. And I actually addressed this in one of the Walking Boxing videos last week. Disgusted in the Australian media in that they put the results in after the fight, but in the lead up to it, nothing. Nothing. Crickets. Absolutely disgraceful by the Australian media. And I would have thought that, this is, again, I always seem to bash poor old Peter Badal and by association Brendan Bradford, I suppose, but surely them being, or supposedly them being, the boxing writers or combat sports writers in this country, the premier writers or whatever the hell they call themselves, I don't know, but they would have went to their editors and said, hey, you realise, there's a couple of Aussies on this week, and one of them just happens to be ranked higher than Tim Tszyu in the pound-for-pound ratings in Australia. Now, the editors at whether the Herald Sun or I think they might be with Associated Press, whatever it is anyway, whoever they speak to that makes these decisions, in the shock horror, I would have said, what do you mean there's someone out there that's above Tim Tszyu? Not possibly know that Peter Badal and Brendan Bradford, and now there's another guy, Jamie someone as well, might have said, do you mind if we just write an article on Jai and maybe get an interview with him? He is the premier boxer in this country. Might not be the most well-known guy. And while you're at it, Sky Nicholson, she's WBC world champion. She's probably close to, if not in the top 10 pound-for-pound female boxers in the world, and Olympian and Commonwealth Games gold medalist. She's very appealing and with one of the best promoters in the world and blah, 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 blah. Maybe they would have went in the bat for those guys. And I know someone said last week, well, why should it be up to the media to do it, up to the teams to do it? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's up to the media to source the stories. Yeah, to have a relationship with the manager, whatever is great. So you can ring them up when something's happening. Say, hey, mate, do you mind doing a story? Or the reporter can ring them and say, hey, do you mind if we do a story? It's on those guys, Peter Badal, Brendan Bradford, and all their cohorts. They should have said, we're going to do a story on this guy. Don't wait until after the fact. An absolute insult to Jai Opetaia and Sky Nicholson for that matter as well. Yes, Carl, you agree? Yep, he's more known in England than here. It's ridiculous, Carl. And even, I get on the D-Style roundtable, once or twice a month, and they all love Jai Opetaia. They think he's great. They all speak glowingly of him and how great he is, and he's the #1 cruiserweight, and he's going to be unified and all the rest of it. Like here in Australia, no one would know who the hell he is unless you're a hardcore fan. It's disgraceful. Anyway, all right, Paul. I'll try and get to these comments too, by the way. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit behind. I'm on my soapbox tonight. Absolutely devastated yesterday and still in shock today, but we need to support our Aussie fighters, not kick them while they're down. Tim made mistakes and he isn't the first. Well said, Paul. Totally agree. And as I said at the start, hey, if you want to critique his style and his game plan and whatever else it might have been, that's great. But the personal attacks, I don't like it. I don't like it. And yes, okay, Jai Opetaia is the #1 fighter and he should have got more attention. It doesn't mean we've got to disparage Tim and as you say there, lay the boots in while they're down. I don't like it. And you're 100% right. He won't be the first. All right, there's Jules. How are you, mate? evening, or we're going to need to extend tonight's episode for a few hours. A lot to say on this. Hey, if that's the case, we'll keep going, mate. There's Tommy B. Lynden, I would say hi all. Completely agree with what you said on Walking Boxing about that interview after the fight. No matter what media obligations there are, or there is, no way I'm putting fighter in a camera that way. Yeah, and as I said, Tommy, it would have been the ideal time for his management to say, Tim, we understand you want to let the fans know how you are. You go to the hospital and we'll get Matt Rose or whoever to front the media and have the say, or maybe not so Glenn. He would probably went with Tim to the hospital. But ideal opportunity for Matt Rose. He was there beside him to say, Tim, I'll take it from here, mate. And he did it after Matteo Tapia fight. Credit to him, by the way, as well, by saying that he thought Saavedra won the fight, even though his fighter was in the ring. I thought that was good. And I actually gained a little bit more respect for Matt after the way he's conducted himself this week. I think he's been good with what he's had to say and the way they conducted themselves. But, yeah, that was just not on, Tommy. There's a time and place where you've got to draw the line and protect the fighter from themselves. And as I said at the start, he was only out there for about 2 minutes and didn't really answer a question anyway, so what's the use? This one hurts bad. Certainly does, Carl. There's Batman. How are you there, mate? The one thing I'm glad is everyone on YouTube wasn't picking Murtazaliev. Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. I didn't really hear anyone pick Murtazaliev at all. After the fight, a lot of experts out there saying, I told you so. I didn't see any of them in the lead up to the fight anyway, so... All right, Jules, I've no doubt the team's performance was heavily affected by the Fundora debacle. Treated round 1 like round 13 of previous fight. With such an experienced team, how did they let him go in so emotional? I don't know, Jules. It's hard to comment on because we don't really know what was going through his head, do we? I don't know. I just don't think the Fundora fight, I was going to say, excuse the pun, but left many scars. I know he's got the scar in his head, but, I mean... He fought through duress in the Fundora fight, but it's not like he took a lot of punishment. I don't know. We can disagree, I suppose, but I just don't think the Fundora fight had any bearing on the result at all yesterday. All right, Batman, I know you'll be devastated. A painful night as a Tim fan. Also, definitely didn't help Australian boxing. Tim is similar to AJ in the UK in terms of everyone in that he marks in that market ends up with more publicity. Yeah, good analogy there. And we all ride the bumps with Tim, and he's almost like a national treasure. And our whole mood is based around his success or failures, whatever it might be. And that's what I said again today, that you know, Australian boxing will be okay, just like English boxing will be okay when AJ moves on or takes an L or whatever it is. There's always fighters coming through, and it's hard to get our heads around. It's hard to swallow, but I think we're doing all right, England and Australia at the moment. Lots of great fighters, or very good fighters coming through. All right, Tommy, as for the fight, not Tim's best performance. No shit, Tommy. Sometimes you have a shocker for one reason or another. I support Tim as an Aussie, win or lose, but can't believe how quick some are to write him off. I'm with you, Tommy. Look, don't be too critical of the fans out there or YouTubers or whoever it might be, influencers, I don't know, whatever it might be, who have written Tim off. I mean, that was a devastating loss, Tommy. And some of the people that are writing Tim off are very experienced boxing people, and they've seen it before. And that's probably where the difference comes in. You've got the armchair casuals who just say, I told you it was no good, and he's done, he's dusted his history. You don't believe a word they say. They wouldn't know. But when you get experienced people in the fight game saying, geez, I think this is it for Tim, I don't see him coming back, you've got to take it on board just a little bit. They know what they're talking about, especially the trainers and managers. They've seen it all before. And I must admit, I've seen it before as well. Fighters have really struggled to come back from this loss. Now, this is not anything against Tim as a person or whatever it might be. This is just having seen it before in the game. And a lot of these guys have been around a long, long time. So when they say they think that Tim might struggle to come back, you've got to take on board what they're saying. They're not being disparaging again to Tim. They're just telling it the way it is from experience. And I think it's going to be a tough one. I really do. It wasn't like he was stopped late and it was a competitive fight. Or look, the only maybe good thing to come out of it was that he was caught absolutely cold. So there might not be that lasting effects physically, because that's another thing we've got to be conscious of. Sometimes those later round knockouts really take a physical effect. When you get caught absolutely cold, normally it's sort of the first or second round, but in this case it was the third. Maybe that might be something that maybe works in his favour, but it was definitely a shocker, Tommy. But again, I'll say it. He fought not a great fight strategy-wise and just paid the price. I think he got his equilibrium knocked about from round one, says Carl. Yeah, I'll say it again, Carl. Once he got knocked down that first time, it was over. Really annoying seeing so many now going at Tim. Yeah, that mate, I don't know what it's like over there, but here in Australia, there'll be people doing absolute cartwheels over the fact that Tim got beat yesterday. And they call it the tall poppy syndrome here. I'm not sure what you call it in England, but I'm sure it's sort of the same all around the world. I remember back when Manny Pacquiao got knocked out by Manuel Marquez. People love that. So look, it happens. It happens. And you're in shock, mate. Try being an Australian boxing fan. All right, what's this? I gave him $1. At this level, this can happen. It looked like they wanted to make a statement and KO this guy early, and that's the wrong approach for this dude. Yeah, it didn't help that Tim did say that he was maybe looking to knock Murtazaliev out in 30 seconds, and there were a lot of people said that was probably an arrogant way to talk about someone like Murtazaliev, who's even though he wasn't well known and maybe put up in that upper echelon of 154 pounders, still a respected fighter. And to say that about anyone at that level, that you might decide to knock him out in 30 seconds, I know that didn't go down too well. And there's some other comments in there, but look, it's the great humbler, isn't it? When you're in the boxing ring and that's happened to you. What happened to Tim yesterday? It is the great equalizer, is the boxing ring. You can't escape it. And let's see. It's fascinating to see how Tim will come back from it. Let's see. Yeah, Jules, everyone tipped Tim to win, including many of his contemporaries. Yeah, well, as I said, mate, I didn't really hear anyone say that Murtazaliev was going to win that fight. All right, Batman. Feel like similar to AJ, Tim was done from the first knockdown and the rest was just getting lit up while on autopilot. Hey, mate, that's a really, really good point. And probably the exact fights when you think about it. AJ didn't fight a great fight against Dubois either. Maybe wasn't prepared at what Dubois had to offer. And when he was knocked down and hurt, instead of taking a round off and boxing and trying to get his thoughts together, went the exact opposite and went after Dubois, who just patiently backed him in the corner and said, have this all over. Pretty much exactly the same fight, Batman. Exactly the same. Jules, why do you think this loss hurts so much? Aussie boxing fans have experienced many upsets and losses, but this one feels different. I just think the country fell in love with Tim, Jules. They did. They put him up on such a pedestal. And while I don't think it was probably warranted that he was on such a high pedestal without beating any of those real top guys, I just think everyone's hopes were pinned on Tim, and it's like, well, I don't know. You look at other sports, it's like I don't know what to even liken it to be honest, but it hits different because he's become a national treasure in Australia, and he represented the country so well. I think the romanticism of the zoo name and the country just fell in love with him, Jules, and it's hard when something you love has something bad happen to them. And I know that's probably a little bit more emotional than what we need to be, but yeah, I'm sure you get what I'm saying anyway. All right, Tommy, learn far more from losing than winning, so he can come back better, but just hope he didn't take too much damage, as it clearly should have been stopped at the start of the third, at the latest, in my opinion. I agree there, Tommy. Just excuse me. It's a little bit hot in this studio here. Yeah, well, as I said earlier, Tommy, I would have thought that after that first knockdown of the third round, I don't sort of blame the corner for giving Tim the chance to go and just show what he had. But, I mean, after that first knockdown, it should have said, well, that's it, boys. In comes the towel. That is it. That is over. Well, let's go. So, and they didn't do it. Carl, let's hope this is his Vince Phillips moment. He's not ready for the scrap heap just yet. Yeah, it was only 29 years old, Carl. we're quick to write him off, but you're only as good as your last fight, and I'll stand by what I said. It's going to be a long road back for Tim, for him mentally, physically maybe, but also just ratings-wise. Those top fighters are just going to say, well, why would I fight you for? You're back to the line, mate. So that's how fickle this game is and how cruel this game is, but that's the sport or the business. I gave him $1. To me, I go back to the Fundora fight and why they couldn't have had that fight called with all the blood, held the belt, had the rematch, and dealt with this dude later. I agree, and I did say that again in one of the videos, that it was one of the articles I saw in one of the papers, and they made a good point. The 5 seconds of, I think I called it madness. They might have called it something else. The 5 minutes that maybe changed Tim Tszyu's career forever. That time where they had to make a decision. Do we let him go out with a cut that could clearly not be stopped? You could just see, you didn't have to be a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon or whatever it might have been, literally, to know that there's no way they were going to close that cut. And in that 5 minute period, they had an opportunity to say, hey, Tim, we know you're a warrior, mate. You want to go out there, and this is not the way you want your American, well, I'm going to say his American debut. He had the Gaucher fight, but his headliner event in Vegas, and I know this is not the way you wanted to go, but guess what, mate? We've got a long career to go after this. We're going to stop the fight. And I know all the fans are going to be disappointed. You're going to be disappointed, but guess what? At the end of it, you're still going to have your belts and your O. And by going on as they did, and again, I still blame the corner for this, not Tim. He would have just wanted to keep going. The corner should have stopped that fight. And I'll stand by that till, as they say, the cows come home. But that 5 minutes where they didn't stop the fight, he would have had, as you say there, he would have had his belt. I don't think he would have rematched Fundora. Remember, he was a late replacement. I think they would have said, yeah, whatever, we'll move on. And then hopefully they would have fought at the end of the year and maybe defended or unified against Murtazaliev, or maybe taken another fight, whatever it might have been. And then the other thing, the scary thing is when you think about it as well, is he was supposed to fight Virgil Ortiz on that Crawford card. I would have, maybe just changed a few opinions now, but I would have thought Ortiz was more of a killer than Murtazaliev. So what might have happened if that fight did happen, 2 months earlier? So, but yeah, that 5 minutes, mate, has maybe been the catalyst of what may spell the downfall of Tim's career. Let's hope not. I think, look, it's only a day after the fact, so I'm sure we're all a little bit emotional at the moment. But I've just got to be honest, and that the way he lost that fight yesterday really just, for me, cast doubts. And again, I hope I'm wrong. David, how are you there, mate? Who decided to wheel out a shattered, concussed fighter to the media to further humiliate himself? Yep, I've had my say on that. Sack that person. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who it was. Well, apparently it was Tim himself, David. But again, I'll say it. They should have pulled him back and said, Tim, I don't care what you think, mate. You're not going out there. You're off to the hospital to get checked out. Igor got badly out coached. Well, that's arguable though, David. I mean, who knows? Maybe Igor had the greatest strategy of all time and Tim just didn't follow it. Or maybe he was following it and got caught and all that went out the window. And as we've said a few times, he was on autopilot after that and just couldn't recalibrate and get his focus back and get his legs back. Did Tim just lose the plot himself? Well, that's definitely maybe a scenario there, mate. Who's Paro fighting next? He's fighting Richardson Hitchens, Andrew, in December, first week of December in Puerto Rico. Nobody felt Barkram was a risk, really. No, they didn't, Batman. I thought he'd be tough. I thought he would give Tim a really tough fight, but at no stage did I think he could actually beat Tim. And again, was that a matter of us, underestimating Murtazaliev or overestimating Tim's abilities? So I don't know. It's a bit of everything, isn't it? In hindsight, it could easily have been handled better. Lots of things could have been handled better, Batman. And Tim's corner, well, they're going to have to wear it again, aren't they? They're going to have to wear it again when they get back to Australia. In this case, again, I don't know. It's besides stopping the fight earlier, they should have thrown the towel in after that first knockdown of the third round. I mean, if Tim refuses to follow the game plan, is that really the corner's fault? Well, maybe it is. I mean, it's like, if you're the coach, you're the coach. It's up to you to make sure your fighter does stick to the game plan. I don't know. So many questions, Batman. Did leaving Tim in that Fundora fight so long when he couldn't see dent his punch resistance? No, I don't think so, Batman. He barely... I mean, Fundora can't punch. He's more of a volume puncher, I suppose. But, I mean, he even with the blood in his eyes, yes, he was outscored for the remainder of the fight, but I don't really remember him taking any really solid punches in that fight, so I don't think so. Costa said, don't get hit. He did the complete opposite. Well, it'd be great in theory not to get hit, Carl, but of course you know that at some stage you are going to get hit. But I think what Costa meant was go a little bit more defensive for a little bit and try and get back into the fight. But you're right, he did the exact opposite. Went after Murtazalov, and when he went down that first knockdown of the third round, I mean, it was like he'd been shot how he went down. I mean, it was a big shot, a massive shot. And I can't believe he actually got up, if I'm being honest. Hang on, I'm behind, am I? Sorry. Get the whip out. Nikita threw the towel in. Crazy obviously cares about his brother. That fight was done. Well, let's hope it wasn't the case of Nikita just calling it himself. He did the right thing, by the way, but I would hope that the corner wasn't going to let Tim go on in the condition that he was. He was done. Could barely stand up at the end when that towel came in. So I would hate to think that the corner was saying, let it go. Bill, how you go, mate? At the press conference, there was one fighter in fight mode, and Tim all smiles. After that, I've seen this coming. Yeah, Murtazalov meant business, and Tim, yeah, he didn't put out the greatest of signals in hindsight, did he? All right, Sammy, I've seen it a lot over the years. People are quick to jump on the bandwagon when a fighter is on the rise and doing well, but when they lose, the fans can be overcritical and really lay the boot in. Yeah, Sammy, but is it any different to any fan out there, no matter what sport you're in? I mean, we're all footy fans. I'm a Carlton man, and if Carlton lose, I'm getting stuck into them as well. I mean, as a fan, that's sort of my right. When they win, I'm saying they're the greatest team of all and we're going to win the premiership that year. And if they lose, I'm thinking, look at these bunch of hacks sometimes. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I don't think we really mean it, but I think it's the same in boxing. You're going to get the people that are going to take the opportunity, as you say, to lay the boots in. But it's just the nature of sport, unfortunately, Sammy. We all have our say, and I suppose we're entitled to it, but some just go a little bit overboard. All right, garden snake mentality. Tim, what's that? Zoo Americanized isn't a good idea. I've seen it over the past 2 American fights. Zoo is acting like a cocky diva, saying Barkram is a soft touch and walking around like his stuff doesn't stink. Yeah, well, it has been a common comment there, Garden Snake, that and this is even coming from Australians, that maybe Tim's demeanour has changed since he, I suppose, quote unquote, hit the big time. I don't know. Only Tim can answer that, I suppose. But, yeah, they've got some soul searching to do, haven't they? All right. I'll go down the comments here. We'll get through a few. There's D-Style. How are you, mate? Looking forward to your review of the fight. I did see your Instagram post yesterday. I know that was from the heart, mate. So, tough pill to swallow, not just for Aussie fans, mate, but fans all over the world. So, I really appreciate your support. Batman, mindset is so key in boxing. And Tim had a great mindset, I believe, super confident. Really hope it doesn't affect him going forward. Yeah, well, if anyone can get through this, Batman, it would be Tim, because has shown he's made of the right stuff. And even getting through the Fundora fight with the conditions he was under. I know, again, I'm not saying it was the smartest thing to do, but he went through 10 rounds with literally blood gushing into his eyes. And yesterday was dropped 4 times, and guess what? He got up 4 times. So if anyone's got that warrior mindset, it's him. But I think what he's got to do is balance that mindset with just boxing smart and maybe not getting ahead of himself. So plenty of boxes he's got to tick, Batman. And the question we've all got to ask is, can he do it? Can he do it? Jules, I hope Tim is given 12 months off and isn't allowed to rush himself back in, because he will want to. He'll want to get back in there early in the new year, Jules. I would think, I wouldn't go maybe as far as 12 months, but I would think June next year. What's that, 8, 9 months? That's what I would say. I would say, Tim, June. That's if everything looks okay. June is when you can come back. And then we'll look at Zarafa at the end of next year. And Michael Zarafa can have a couple of fights in the meantime if he wants. I mean, having said that out loud, though, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense either. Because in this business, it's all about the money. You just know what might happen. You know, you can almost picture it, can't you, that No Limit are going to say, right, Timmy, we want you back in February or March, and in June or July, it's going to be Zarafa. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really don't want to see Tim until June, and that's just with a journeyman. And I know all this Zarafa fights all popped up today and everything else. I don't even want to hear about it at the moment, if I'm being honest. Just don't want to hear about it. All right, Jake the Cut Snake. Didn't think Bakram looked that great against Jack Colkay. Was probably training during Ramadan. Looked frightening against Tim. He looked like a totally different fighter, Jake. And someone said it earlier. I think he was the twin. That's what it looked like, mate. It really did. He looked nothing like the guy that fought Colkay. And an aging, pretty much over-the-hill Colkay. Had him rocked, had him on the ropes, I thought he was almost winning the fight. And credit to Murtazawa if he come back. And apparently it was during Ramadan. But totally different fighters, mate. Totally different fighters. Andrew Opataya, really good guy. Sorry, really good, but his persona is beige, needs a good PR guy, yeah. But you can't force someone to be someone they're not, though, Andrew. And maybe that's just the appeal. Tim's always had that, the personality. He's not the most outgoing guy, but he's sort of enlightening type of guy. He's very attractive to the media, reacts well to the media, very likable. I don't know. But is that really a prerequisite that you've got to be an outgoing, media-friendly type of guy? I don't know. That's an argument for another day. All right, Glenn, I couldn't believe what I was watching. This weird probing right hand with squared up shoulders, then off that looking to do a lead rip to the body with no setup. I'm lost for words. Yeah, I barely saw a jab in the whole fight, Glenn. This is the hard thing to get the head around about. Again, did he get caught early and just his whole thing was just thrown off and he didn't really know, what to do? I don't know, but it didn't look like Tim Tszyu in there. Just like it didn't look like Murtazawa. It didn't look like Tim Tszyu. And I know we're all looking for answers, but at the end of the day, was it just a better fighter that beat Tim on the day and nailed him early and got him out of there? I don't know. Batman bringing him out for that post-fight was disgusting. Felt and feels so bad for Tim. Yep. Especially when, he couldn't even make eye contact with anyone. It just did not make sense to me. All right, D-Style. I don't like the criticism Tim's team is getting, to be honest. Murtazawa won the fight. He deserves full credit. Agreed, D-Style. Carl says Tim can come back. He's got the mentality to do it, but he needs to take his time, come back home, wipe the floor with Zarafa, then climb back up. Yeah, seems to be the way or the road they will travel there, Carl. Glenn says full credit to Bakram, but the flaws were so apparent and he kept repeating them. I don't think Bakram Murtazawa could just quite believe that he was pretty much served Tim Tszyu up on a platter. He's got a guy coming at him with no movement, no setup punches, nothing, just coming at him, and I just don't believe he could, or I don't believe he could believe his luck. So, I've got so many thoughts you're sharing on the show. The link might not have a chance. It'd be great to actually get you on, D-Style. We'll see how we go at the end, mate, but we'll try and get through the comments first. Be good to have someone like yourself on. What time is it over there? Give me a look. I'm just guessing here. It would be at about 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning over there. Geez, you're a brave man over there, mate. Tapia, the Great Escape, shocker. D-Style, don't want to simplify it too much, but I honestly think he was caught big and just never recovered from first knockdown. Exactly what I said too, D-Style. Who's that? Jules says, got your point, or get your point, but Tim went into that fight way too hot. How much was playing catch up from what he endured versus Fundora? Team had a lot to do with that. I don't know. I still don't want to bring the Fundora argument into it. I really don't. Again, I'll say he didn't take big punches, wasn't stopped, it wasn't under duress except for the cut on his head. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure that played a factor in his mindset. I really don't. I just think he looked $1 million before the fight and just got caught on the night, and that was it. Batman says, I'm not sure it had anything to do with Costa being there. Most likely just a coincidence. I agree. I thought Tim's footwork and defence was getting better and better. However, that guy in there on Sunday wasn't the same guy. What the hell happened? I agree, Carl. I just didn't recognise him in there, Carl. Didn't recognise him at all. It's totally possible that Murtazalov is just a guy Tim can't beat, a la Fraser and Foreman. Yeah, you get those fighters D-style, 100%. Call me old-fashioned, but maybe establishing a jab would have been a good start, says Glenn. Yeah, good call, mate. I can see the sarcasm in there, but you're right, 100%. He just didn't see the jab to set up the fight or the other punches, didn't see the head movement, didn't see little step to the left or step to the right to maybe get himself in place, just seen nothing. So, look, again, it's easier outside the ring, but we're all experts, but, geez, it just did not look like Tim. Yeah, D-Style was knocked out 3 times, and I never thought that Pacquiao would come back after that Marquez loss. The first 2, I think, were they body shots? Or they were very early in his career anyway, but the Marquez knockout was a bad knockout, one of the worst ones you'll ever see, and he managed to come back and fight Mayweather 2.5 years later. We saw him react to the knockdown the same way against Gorchet. Why do you think the lesson wasn't learned then and there? Good point, Jules. He got caught in the first round in that as well, didn't he? So, yeah, I don't know, Jules, but you're right. He did not learn his lesson, did he? Bill, I seen Costa training Tim, not just holding pads, but making Tim punch differently. Maybe bad someone that's not in his camp a few days before the fight could possibly distract his muscle memory movements. Oh, I don't think so, Bill. I don't think so. I think we're just reading a bit too much into that one. Jamal is a completely different style to Murtazalov. Yeah, well, do we have to rethink how we think that fight might have went with Jamal? I don't know. Don't know. Just there's a lot just buzzing around at the moment. A lot of questions. Any technical flaws once he was concussed was just that, a concussed fighter still in there. Yep, and in there too long, Batman. I'll repeat that. What's that, Glenn? Did he even throw 5 jabs? And given the height of Buckram and his high guard, a couple of body jabs would have served him well. I would have said that, Glenn. I would have said to him if I was in the corner, all right, let's get a look at this guy. Maybe a jab to the head, a jab to the body, maybe another jab to the head, something like that. Just head, body, or body, head. Let's get our range. Let's see what he's got. Let's check his speed, check what sort of game plan he might be looking to implement. There was just none of it. And again, I'll say Murtazalov just couldn't believe his luck. So Jamal is very economical and been beat by Harrison before. Yeah, again, it might be styles. Who knows? Harrison was probably a little bit more in his prime when he beat Jamal, but again, we'll never know. Larry, I wouldn't mind seeing Tim against Vladimir Hernandez from Pro Bucks. Would be a good fight for him to get back in the groove. Yeah, well, I'm thinking someone even less than that, Larry. I'm thinking someone with a 60% win-loss record. Someone that maybe's had 25, 30 fights, but not a big puncher. That's probably the prerequisite, I would say. So a journeyman that's not a big puncher. And I think most boxing fans would expect it. So I think if No Limit come out and go, right, it's Tim Tszyu versus whoever it might be, I don't think you're going to get a lot of people go, oh, here we go. Look at this bloody peanut he's fighting. Look at this easy beat. I think most people would expect it. I would welcome it. Just a journeyman to get Tim back on the winners list. And maybe it's not even a pay-per-view, although that's silly saying it's not going to be a pay-per-view with Tim Tszyu, but get Tim to take a lesser purse and just get himself back in the mix and maybe swallow the ego a little bit and get back to just what's made him a very, very good fighter. So, g'day, Tommy. I see the comments are fired up today, so I'll sit back and listen. Tough loss for Tim, but I always respect his warrior spirit. Take a nice break and regroup with a domestic caliber opponent. Exactly right. Yes, D-Style, I never thought I would be saying that. Perfect time for Tim versus Rafa. I agree. Yep. He needs a more professional team. Yeah, tend to agree too. Ryan says, anyone from Team's corner teach him how to hold? Apparently not, Ryan. That's been one of my biggest criticisms as well. And I thought it might have been a one-off with Nikita, who just can't seem to want to hang on and hold and clinch. I just thought that might have been his stubbornness or whatever, but the fact that Tim couldn't do it either, there's got to be something in there that the boys just aren't showing or aren't being shown. And I did comment yesterday that it's all about these different exercises and routines they do in training. How about let's focus a bit more on fight-specific situations like that what happened yesterday, because he looked like he had no idea how to hold. So lots of things they have to work on. Does Barkram unify? Is he the boogeyman? Looks that way, Ryan. I wouldn't be wanting to fight him if I was one of the other guys, I can tell you. Look, you would think that who's got the belts? Fundora, Crawford, and Ortiz. Ortiz, or is that just the interim belt? Is it the full belt now? Whatever it is. But I'm thinking unless they really have to, I'm not sure they would want the smoke, as they say. I don't think, we never know with Crawford. He might say, all right, well, if I don't get the Canelo fight, maybe I'll look at Barkram Murtazalov. But at 36, 37 years of age, does Tim Crawford really need the aggravation? I'm not so sure I would want that. I would think that Crawford would just want the absolute big boys name-wise out there. And if he can't get them, well, he'll probably just retire. Geez, Jules, what's this? Does anyone think the rehydration clause had anything to do with his punch resistance? Nah, mate. Nah, it's... Look, like, he made the weight, obviously, the morning before. Apparently, from what I've seen or read or whatever it is, it takes up to 48 to 72 hours to rehydrate properly anyway. So I don't think it really would have mattered. I did see someone did ask the question. He had to reweigh in the following day. Yeah, I don't think so. We saw it against Gorshay, didn't we? Same thing. So I don't think that had anything to do with the rehydration. But look, it is a problem in boxing in general, Jules. Not just boxing, in combat sports in general. But how do they fix it? They can't. I mean, these fighters drain themselves down. And I mean, even the day after, both guys weighed, 165. They had to be 11 pounds or 5 kilos over. Still a lot of weight. To think that they both would have probably put on, if they were allowed to, maybe another 2 or 3 kilos on top of that. It's a hell of a lot of weight to take out of your body. And most of it's fluid. And I don't know how they fix it unless they do those tests that maybe gives you a readout of what your body's physically capable of getting down to without damaging itself. I don't know. Watched a couple of Shannon Taylor's fights. Reminded me a bit of Tim. Is he Taylor level? Yeah, I think he's better than Shannon Taylor, Andrew. Yeah, I think I would give that to Tim. I think he's a better fighter than Shannon Taylor, who was a beast himself back in the day. Batman, when Tim stood up after the third knockdown, could just see he was devastated and couldn't believe the nightmare he was in. I was so shocked. It's a good way to put it, Batman. The look on Tim's face was of shock horror, like what the hell is going on? And I think he knew he couldn't come back. I think he knew that he was hurt. I think he knew that he was wondering where he was, and I think he knew inside that he had nothing left. He wasn't going to be able to recover, and I think the reality of it sunk in then that the impending doom was coming, and obviously it did. But yeah, that's a good view on things there. All right, D-Style. He just lost, guys. Murtazalov is better than we thought. That's what it is. Reminds me how shocked I was when Pacquiao beat Barrera down. Good point there, and I'll put my shirt up there, and you can see it there. It says, it is what it is. That's the motto I sort of live my life by. It is what it is. We can analyse it and analyse it and analyse it. Guys, sometimes your favourite fighter or your favourite footy team or whoever it might be, they just get beat. They just lose sometimes. They just, for one reason or another, can't do the job that night. They run into someone that's a little bit better, and that's just what it is. Yeah, I think Tim may have dodged a bullet for not fighting Virgil Ortiz. Yep. I think Tim and his team have so much faith in his ability that they may have allowed him to put himself in dangerous situations in and out of the ring when they needed to slow him down. Yeah, maybe, Jules. D-Style, Virgil isn't as big and strong as Murtazalov. Yeah, that's probably a good point as well. They are. I mean, you would think, though, that Virgil Ortiz would walk around probably a lot heavier than what Murtazalov is. And geez, for a guy that there wasn't much of him, he was so slender and lean, but wow, the knockout power, just ridiculous. Damien, Rocky 3, what's that? You're so correct. Rocky 3 style now back to where it all began for Costa and train in Russia. Come back an absolute demon. Yeah, well, that's an option. IBO title is always an option. Who has got that? Wade Ryan lost that fight, didn't he? And Dennis Hogan lost, whoever he lost to. Anyway, it could, look, who knows, Big J, maybe. So D-Style in the chat, soon to be Mr. Australia. We've got to get you out here, D-Style. One day we will have to throw the hat around and get you out here, I reckon, for a big fight. Might not have one here for a while, though. If Tim's going to base himself in America and Jai's over in Saudi Arabia or England, wherever it might be, Liam Paro's in Puerto Rico, you might get to see Shotgun Shannon O'Connell. That might be about the extent of it, mate, but we'll see what we can do. I think it's very important for Tim and No Limit to make sure he doesn't fight a punch in the next couple of fights, put him back up. Yep, exactly what I said, Larry. I agree. Virgil has a killer left hook. Not sure Tim would be able to deal with it. Another good point, Glenn. Open to that left hook, isn't he? What do we got there? Damien. Tim can handle it. Go back to the high guard he always had, but lost for some reason in his fight. That's another good point. Tim always had the hands nice and high, didn't he? But and not just yesterday's fight, but even against Fundora, I did notice that the hands were a little bit lower as well. Not that that would have had anything to do with the cut. I mean, he just come in with the head low and copped the elbow. But yeah, I'm liking the comments tonight. Some really good views on the fight. All right, nothing wrong with Tim taking a break. He's already proved how tough he is. Time to be smart. You don't play boxing, come back stronger in the long term. Couldn't have said it better there, Tommy. Fully agree, mate. All right, Batman, if I don't get this, what's that, balcony on track with Tim, it will be one of the biggest mistakes from a management team I've seen in years at this level. Fundora fight itself was so unlucky. Not quite. Just clarify that a bit there, mate, can you? Texas 16 South. What's that there? You got the keys. Let me in over there. Come back and chill. I'm not sure what that means there, Texas, but great to have you in the chat there, mate. I agree with D-Style, says Larry. I agree. Oh, sorry. What's that? D-Style versus Zoo would be good. If Ortiz doesn't beat Bud, let him fight Zoo. I still favour Zoo in that fight. Hopefully we get that down the track, Larry, but at the moment, all those fights are off the table, I would think. Oh, sorry, Ortiz versus Zoo, says Larry, my bad. Glenn, Tim's biggest issue is that he finishes on the right hand, doesn't dip, doesn't pull back with the left hand, nothing. He does it in the pads and the bag. We fight now. We fight how we train. Yeah, another good point. Another thing you would have seen at offset Tim with Murtazalov yesterday was the 1-2. Was it the 1-2 and then the 3 afterwards? So the 1-2 and then the left hand. That Tim had a lot of trouble picking. Maybe that was the strategy, but whatever he did, it worked anyway. Oh, this is a good question. If you had a choice for Tim to be trained by any other trainer in the world, who would it be? Geez, that spot, you put me on the spot there. Well, apart from maybe his dad Kostya, but no, I'm thinking maybe who's the guy that trained Amir Khan and Andre Ward? Virgil Hunter. I like him. I like Robert Garcia. Might be one from left field. I'm not quite sure Freddie Roach would be the right fit. I think Freddie's more... I just think he's hones the skills of already established fighters. He doesn't really work on deficiencies. I know he did a little bit with Manny. I get that, but I'm not sure whether Freddie would be the right fit. But I would like to see Robert Garcia as more of a teacher. Virgil Hunter especially is a teacher. I'm just trying to think. I'm sure there's plenty of guys out there. Put them in the chat anyway, guys. But there's some guys out there. I mean, even in Australia. I mean, Angelo Hyder for me is a great trainer as well. I know that wouldn't happen, but I'm a big fan. I've seen Angelo do his work close up with the Maloney boys in camp, and very good teacher, a very good explainer. He will stop a spar, he will stop a pad session and explain exactly what he's doing. Again, I doubt that would happen. But if you're looking at Australian level, I would say Angelo. Internationally, as I said, maybe a Virgil Hunter or a Robert Garcia. Big fan of Robert Garcia. His fighters have got so much respect for him. And again, I've seen it firsthand up close when we were at his gym many years ago with the boys, the twins. His fighters absolutely love him. They really do, and they fight for him. Can't comment on Virgil Hunter because I've never seen him up close, but there's probably some options out there for him. Did you see Cambosa's tweet about it? Damn, hit us with the truth about the media. I thought George hit it right on the head, Damien. And I love the fact he didn't lay the boots in the Tim or have a snide remark or whatever it might have been, because he's been there himself. He's been on the receiving end of what, or not necessarily to that extent to what happened to Tim yesterday, but he knows what's up, as they say, at the level. He knows exactly how hard it is at that level. And full of respect for George with that tweet yesterday. I thought he hit it right on the head. Big J, I've always said that people look at Tim and see Kostya. That's always been the problem. Yeah, good point. Maybe we're all guilty of that in some way, maybe. The Canelo fight was never realistic. No, I agree there, Batman. But I did feel Tim would have given Spence a beating given the opportunity. I still stand by that regardless of Saturday. Yeah, no, I tend to agree there, Batman. Look, again, as I always say, styles make fights. And I think Spence's style would have suited Tim. He's not a big puncher. Yeah, he's slick. He can hurt you in different stages. But overall, he's not a big puncher at all. And I think that... And maybe even Crawford would have fell in the same boat. Maybe his overall boxing IQ and style and ability would have been, would have made up for the lack of power. But yeah, I would have thought the Spence fight would have been a lot different. We won't know, I don't think, Batman, because I reckon by the time Tim, if he does get back in that position, who knows, that those guys might be well and truly gone. All right, Jules, agree with the statement. Obviously believe Tim is everything we think he is, but the hype maybe has forced him into a situation where the risk become too much. Yeah, well, we don't know what goes through his head, Jules, but you just it's a possibility. Damien says Tim will get the eye of the tiger back Drago style in Russia. That's seriously the move to make. Break your engagement off and go on. I think he's going to break the engagement off, Damien, but look, it could be an option. I mean, I don't know too much about the Russian coaches they have in the pro ranks these days, but I remember when I was an amateur going to all the tournaments all overseas, the Russian coaches were just hard bastards. And even the fighters themselves, just hard bastards, they really were. But the Russian coaches, they were like a military outfit. They really were, the way they all trained together. And yeah, maybe it could be the case of getting back to the roots. I know we embrace him as an Aussie, but he has got the Russian roots. So maybe it is the other option, Damien. Forget about Vegas and move to, I don't know, Siberia or somewhere. Batman doesn't agree with my opinion on Cambosis. That's cool. That was tough to take, but feeling better now than yesterday, says Hanoi. Tripper, everyone said it, but I agree he needs to dump No Limit and move it abroad to Russia. Okay. Fennick was saying Tim would beat Canelo 2 years ago. Yeah, well, as much as we love Jeff, maybe he got ahead of himself as well, like the rest of us did. It wasn't the normal Tim we've seen in the ring for the last couple of years. Rest up, Tim. Thanks for your honesty and great boxing news. Thanks, Motorsport. Really appreciate that, mate. Sarah Robertson, welcome to the chat, Sarah. Too much pressure with the weight of all that media spin. I agree, Sarah. And look, it might have just been a subconscious thing. And it's not Tim's fault, by the way, but just the adulation that the boxing media here in Australia put on Tim. And again, it's not his fault. He just does what he does, and I'm sure he welcomes it. And just when you see the way they just drool over Tim and the way they fawn over him, and they'll write up these stories they get put out about, next year we're fighting Crawford and Canelo and everyone else. I don't think Tim would feel comfortable with all that, but this is how uneducated the Australian media is. They really are. But maybe subconsciously, Tim would read the comments, he would read the Instagram and Facebook posts and the articles in the paper. So maybe that's what he's got to do when he does come back, get off social media and just put himself in the dark as far as all that goes and just focus on the job. But I don't think he can do it in Australia. Whether it's America or Russia, that's whatever. It could be England. I don't care. But my advice to Tim would be to get out of Australia. Because the media here got their heads up their asses and they just put this weight of expectation on him that I just don't think he can measure up to at the moment. Yeah, and Larry agrees. Too much pressure. Let Tim be Tim. Yep. And the comparisons to his dad, yeah, you're right, constantly. What do we got here? Oh, Glenn, not a Fennick fan. Fennick is clueless. No Limit really does need to sort this with Tim. The entire business depends on him. Yep, agreed. Tarzan, all right. Too busy believing all the hype. I'm a warrior. I'm going to make a statement. He's actually demonstrated how his low IQ in boxing. Can't help think it's been too easy for him to date amateur hour. Yeah, well, he's pretty much had it his own way, Tarzan, the whole way through. And look, maybe it's a wake-up call. Who knows? But a lot of questions that need to be answered from Tim Tszyu. Daniel comes down to his game plan. He needs to just take one fight at a time. Yeah. Don't worry about all those other fighters. Worry about the guy in front of you at the time. Who knows? I doubt it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to him, but let's hope maybe if he does come back, he'll look back at this and say, okay, this really showed me where I'm at. Andrew, no TSD. Fundora will have improved a lot by the time Tim could get a rematch. I don't think a rematch is in the works for a long time there, Hanoi. Yeah, good call, Jules. No Limit need to go and get a Kuso back. Hope it's the end for No Limit. These $70 pay-per-views are a joke. If you purchase that, you're an idiot unless you were covering it online. Thanks for just covering yourself at the end there, Damien, giving me an out there. Of course, I bought it. Mate, if they don't charge $70 and they go out of business, someone else will. Unfortunately, that's just the biz. Whoever promotes Tim Zoo going forward, it's always going to be $70, mate, at the moment. Don't be surprised if it goes up even more. Get used to it there, mate. D-Style, Sam Goodman is going to get wrecked by Inoue too. Who invited you to the show, D-Style? Getting stuck into our Aussie fighters? No, I'm just joking. I think it's going to be a tough night for Sam. Really take my hat off to him for actually getting in the ring with Inoue in the first place. He could have bided his time and maybe waited till he went to 126. But the fact he's actually called for the fight, you've got to be careful what you wish for, of course. But I'm with you. I think if that went 5 rounds, I'd be staggered. But anyway, good on him for getting in the ring. D-Style, the rough year hasn't ended yet. Yeah, no shit there, D-Style. We've got 2 months to go. We've got to get through Liam and Sam Goodman, yep. Damien, yeah, when are you coming over, D-Style? We're going to have to pass that hat around soon, mate, and we'll get you here eventually. Yes, D-Style, Australia, mate. All right, Benny Mahoney hinting online. He'll be back in the next few months. How far can he go? Who knows, Eminem. The jury for me is still out on Benny Mahoney. I know he's had a lot of raps, but if I'm being honest, at this stage, I probably only see him as a domestic or regional type of fighter. If I'm sort of telling it the way it is there, Eminem. Look, I might be wrong. Look, I think history has shown us that you just can't look at a fighter, and Benny, with all due respect to him, hasn't really fought anyone remotely resembling a world-class fighter, so it's really hard. And we've seen it so many times in the past where they look great against average opposition, get to someone that knows what they're doing, and they get destroyed. So at this point, Eminem, I'd say maybe a regional fighter at best, and then we'll see. I'd like to see him come back, and I know Isaac Hardman's out of it at the moment, but come back and fight a Hardman. Or a Mikhailovich or one of these types of guys, or at 154, even Kamakao or whatever. Maybe eventually Nikita as well. But yeah, the jury's still out on him at the moment, mate. It's pretty hard to make a call on him. Tim kept getting up too quick. He needed to clear his head for up to 8. Yeah, another good point, Mark. I like it. And maybe that was the instinct coming out. As soon as he got dropped, he was straight up, and that's the worst thing you can possibly do. And we've seen it in the past, a la Zab Judah, got up too quick and ended up on his face. Yeah, a good point, Mark. Maybe, look, I've got a feeling it was his instinct. I've got to get up, and didn't really think it through that, all right, I've been knocked down, let's take the 8 count, and get up, take a deep breath and reassess. He got up quick and just kept running into barrages. Tarzan, all right, bit of a skeptic there. It's over for Tim. It's a beating like the one Costa faced that sent him into retirement. Let's not underestimate. He was smashed. Yeah, a little bit different with Tim yesterday. I mean, he was knocked out, or obliterated, really. Costa was at the end of his career. Took a lot of punishment in that fight. A little bit different, Tarzan, but yeah, soon. Time will soon tell, won't it, whether Tim can recover or not. Should be a warning sign to Nikita, who also has some of the same defensive flaws. Get them fixed now, because when he steps up, I think it will cost him, with all due respect. No, it's a good point, Larry, and I've said that myself. If Nikita continues to fight the way he has in recent fights, the minute he steps up, I fear the same thing happens in Nikita. So I'm with you there. Let's hope he really looks at that. Maybe the coaches look at that as well and say, all right, we need to get these boys back in the gym, and maybe just hold the farm on, or hold the phone on. Is that the phrase? Hold the farm, or whatever it is. Just hold our horses on the progression they're on at the moment. Eminem, Dana Coolwell, Shushu Carrington is huge. Yeah, well, Coolwell is just the opponent you would think Eminem, considering, or just compared to all the the media on the fight at the moment. But yeah, great opportunity for Dana Coolwell. Oh, that's on the Tyson and Jake Paul card. I'm with you there, Daniel. It's sad that Australia doesn't know Jai. 100%. They will soon, yes. D-Style, No Limit can definitely be doing a lot better. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I'll say it again though, D-Style. I think as far as Tim goes, I think they've done a stellar job. I really do. But outside of that, I think they've just taken their eye off the ball as far as the rest of Australia goes. They put all their eggs in the Tim Zoo basket. And now they're left pondering what to do now, just like Tim is as well. So, and let's hope they learn something out of all this as well. D-Style, Murtazaliev has a hell of a team. I think we know now why Jamel didn't want to fight Murtazaliev. Yeah, and I must admit, D-Style, in hindsight, I'm probably going to say, I remember looking at Murtazaliev's team and seeing is it Aegis Klimas in the corner. He doesn't just attach himself to anybody. Most of his fighters win. Very rarely you see one of his fighters lose. When was the last time one of his fighters actually lost, apart from probably Lomachenko, I suppose, but very rarely do his fighters lose. And I remember seeing him in the camp of Murtazaliev, thinking, oh, maybe Murtazaliev is maybe a little bit higher on the in the pecking order than what we thought. Didn't change my prediction on the fight, of course, but he has got a good team behind him, mate, that's for sure. Nikita versus Zarafa, not Tim. No, I don't think Nikita happens now, Andrew. I think it'll be Tim. Johnny Lewis had some interesting comments, said that basically Tim was getting hurt by the shots and he might not come back from it. Jack, well, there you go. That's what I said before. And if Johnny Lewis says that, well, you listen. One of the most respected people in Australian boxing history. And if Johnny Lewis says that, because he's been around for probably 45 years, and if he says that, well, again, we listen to what he has to say. Tarzan, mate, let it go. Tim won't be fighting anyone. It's 100% over. Okay, you've said it a couple of times. We believe you. What's that? Murtazaliev would, I'm assuming, eat Zarafa alive too. I don't think, yeah, that'd be legalised manslaughter, I think, D-style. Batman, I give Zarafa a 0 chance. Tim will absolutely fold him in half, regardless of Saturday of his mindset. He's not losing or having a competitive fight with no Zarafa. Yeah, well, we're going to see pretty soon, I think, Batman. I think the fight that as I said earlier, I thought it had absolutely 0 chance of happening is now probably 99% going to happen. So that's how quick this game turns. Yep, Tommy, they should be resting Tim before they throw him in with Zarafa. Yeah, definitely not next up and definitely not soon, I wouldn't have thought. Larry, wasn't shocked at how Murtazaliev fought. I was shocked at how defensively irresponsible Tim looked and his lack of tactics. Walking to the same right-left combination over and over. Yeah, good point, Larry. I'll probably go to Australia for Zoo versus Zarafa. Yes, Steve Style, let's make it happen, mate. I'll talk to you about that, see what we can do for you. I'm sure we can billet you out and you can stay at old mate Big J's house. All right, we haven't seen the best of Zarafa for a couple of years, and I think yes, they will motivate and hunger Mike again, or Mick. And if they do that fight next year, Phil, Tim, but be a bit vulnerable at this stage. Well, I've never given Zarafa a snowball's chance in hell, Tommy, if I'm being perfectly honest. And he's actually taken exception to what I've said, but based on what we saw yesterday, you would think you're right what you say there, that Zarafa's, his confidence would be sky high, and he would be just pacing the lounge room saying, let me up this guy, I can beat this guy, and I'm going to ruin his career once and for all, and I'm going to stick it up the Lynden Hoskings of the world and everyone out there that's run me down. He'd be walking as taller as he's ever had there, Tommy, and that's why I think it's a bad idea to fight him first up. I really do. I think Tim is levels above Michael, but the gap that used to be for me this wide is now narrowing. I want to see Tim have one, if not maybe even 2 warm-up fights before they contemplate that, because I think if he fights him next up, Michael Zarafa has got a great chance of beating Tim Zoo, and I never thought in a million years I would ever say that. But we've got to change our tune a little bit. I still think Tim beats him, but why take the risk first up? I don't get it. All right. Unknown Samoan. After the first Opatia Breeders fight, Jai's team spoke with No Limit, offered Jai to be on an NRL fight night and fight on an Akita card. I didn't know that. Not as the main, so he left and found Matchroom. Yep. Yeah, well, that's right, because obviously Jai was with DNL, with Dean Lonigan, so he was a free agent before then. Or after that happened with Dean. So it's the same as, the sliding door moments, isn't it? Cambosa's had a go at the Australian media for not looking at some of the other Aussies, male and female. Yeah, well, he's got a point, pound for pound king. It's not Tim's fault, by the way. I think this whole laying the boots in again at Tim for that, it's not his fault the media just focus on him. I mean, he's a fighter. It's not his fault. So, yes, D-Style, another good point. Writers and print media are becoming irrelevant, though. It's all on the influencers and the YouTubers and the Instagrammers, D-Style. We're the future, mate. It's all going to come down to us. I'll keep going. I'll just go down a few there. Yeah, D-Style, they don't cover Jai at all, mate. Not at all. What's that? I should be the combat sports reporter. I'd give it a crack, Daniel, for sure. Let me go. Let me at him. All right, Andrew, Jai needs a gimmick. Footy is king here. Personally, I think he should do a tour with the drums and Islander shit. Yeah, I don't think it's really his thing, Andrew. And look, end of the day, I know it would not sit well with him that he's not overly well known in Australia, but, mate, he's overseas kicking ass. The rest of the boxing world knows who he is. He's making good money. He's getting in the big fights. It's probably us that are more focused on this than what he is. Maybe he'd be disappointed in it, but not focused on it 100%. I'll keep going down the comments there. All right. Tommy B says, Bedell and the Fox guys are under the No Limit agenda. Shame they never get you on there to tell it how it is and not what the No Limit agenda is. Yeah, there's no way I'd get on there, Tommy. Look, it's a tough gig to be on TV, but you're right what you say there. Bedell and Bradford and the Jamie, someone his name is. There's obviously no secret. It's blatantly obvious that there's a deal in place with No Limit and that portion of the media. I think it's News Limited or whatever it might be. That's why no one else really gets a look in with the other shows that are on. But I wouldn't do it anyway, Tommy. It's even to the point where I've been offered press passes that in the past before, and I've turned them down. I don't want to be owing anyone anything. I want to be able to get on here because it's never been about the money for me or anything like that, or the trips. I know some people get free trips out of it and they have to cover it and write favourably, and that's cool. That's up to them. That's what they want to do. But I wouldn't do it, Tommy. I like being totally independent and not owing anyone anything. If I had to do that, I'd get off YouTube, to be honest, mate. I wouldn't do it. All right. D-Style, Costa Zoo and then Tim Zoo by extension is the main reason you even started paying attention to the Oz boxing scene. Yeah, good point, D-Style. Regardless what anyone says, Tim's been great for his nation. He's been awesome for the nation, D-Style, for Aussie boxing, and opened so many doors. But there are a lot of people out there, mate, that resent Tim for the fact that Jai and Liam and George to some extent and the Maloneys and everyone else haven't got the attention they deserved. And I think it's unfair because it's not Tim's fault. It's not Nikita's fault. It's just the way it is. And that's probably the way it'll always be. Eminem. Who is Vegas Laughfield supposed to be fighting next month? I don't know, Eminem. I wasn't aware that he was back. I'll look into that, mate. Matt Rose seems genuine. I like him, Tommy, says Tommy. Yeah, he's a good guy, Tommy. Yeah, and look, George, I have met George once, but he's more seen as the face of No Limit and probably can be accused sometimes of being Australia's version of Don King with some of the spin he goes on with sometimes. I must admit, I sort of cringe sometimes and I see some of the things that he says, but I think Matt Rose is more the down to earth type of guy, the guy that runs the show from out the back. But yeah, he's a really good guy, Matt, and I don't think he deserves a lot of the negative comments that he gets. But end of the day, if you put yourself out there, you got to expect to wear it in return, don't you? But I think this week he's actually handled himself very, very well and represented No Limit and Tim really well as well. What's that, Damien? Jai probably said there were only two genders. That's why our leftist dirtbag media won't cover him. Hey, good point, Damien. You got to be careful what you say. I'd last 2 seconds if that was me. All right, I think we're getting through some comments there. I'm going to just go to the end there and work my way back. All right. All right. Yep, I think I'm getting towards the end. We've still got about 15 minutes. Jeez, how quick has tonight gone? All right. Are we all over processing it, says Asbot. What's that? May this is just what happens when you get hit in the temple by a 6-foot Cossack who eats gravel for breakfast. Very, very good point there, Asbot. Yep, a very good point. What's this? Does anyone else in here listen to Knock 'em Out the Box podcast by Philly rapper Vinny Paz and his mate? They've always given Tim props, but they sure don't rate Cambosis and the Maloney's. No, I wasn't aware of that, Eminem. I will look it up. What's it called? Knock 'em Out the Box podcast. Okay, I don't really normally listen to what rappers have to say, but with a name like Vinny Paz, I'll give it a go, Eminem. All right, Batman, a lot of the time the perception is everything. If they feed him nobody and the next step up, he doesn't win, people will say he never got back. Just needs some gimmies and then to win a big fight or two and he's back. Yeah, well said there, Batman. Yes, forgot to say that. Hit the like. I think we're at over 1,800 people now, so subscribers. So we're aiming for 2,000 guys. So hit the like button, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Wow, is that right? Buckram's odds were 5-1. Unbelievable for an IBF champion. That was 5-1 odds. Did I see somewhere else he might have even been 7-1 with some bookmakers as well? Now, I'm not a betting man. I wouldn't have a clue how it all works, but I'm assuming 5-1 and especially 7-1 are pretty long odds. But maybe that's all the Australian money on Tim there, Julian. Maybe we're just all gullible, aren't we? All right, Tim, Travis, I still love Tim. He had a bad day. I just wonder, though, should he get back to his roots, stay in Aussie, maybe get a few training camps with his dad in Thailand and work on his defence? He needs time out of the ring, Travis. 1, to just get his head right, and then 2, to start focusing on some of the deficiencies that he has. Now, I think up until yesterday, Tim maybe didn't even realise, and his team didn't even realise some of the deficiencies that he had. Now, it's easy for us to say these days he was always open to a left hook counter, or he didn't move his head enough, or whatever it might be. I think now they were looking to go, okay, we need to get Tim out of there for at least 6 months and start, 1, to get his head right, let him physically recover, mentally recover, and then get to work on some of these deficiencies and then start again. And that's why I don't think the Michael Zarafa fight or anyone around that mark is a good idea. What's up, Batman? If the critics had their way, Linux would have never come back and beat Rahman or McCall. Good point. Kovalev wouldn't have faced Elder Alvarez. Elder Alvarez wouldn't have beat Lara in the rematch, etc. And Manny didn't see the end of it there, but yeah, after the Marquez fight. Look, I'm not saying it's the end of the road for Tim, but I'm just saying it's going to be a long, hard road back. It really is. Matty Chu says, is this beatdown considered more brutal than when Spence got beat down by Crawford? Oh, well. I think the Spence beatdown was probably more physical, Matty. I think yesterday was more mental for Tim. Mentally, I think physically he'll recover okay. And as I said earlier, when you get knocked out cold or knocked down cold early in the fight, it's a lot easier to recover than sustained punishment throughout the fight. So I think physically he'll be okay. But mentally is where it's going to really be tough for Tim to come back. And then obviously he's got to work his way through the ranks again. Whereas Spence, from the first bell to the stoppage, got absolutely battered by Terence Crawford, Matty. So more physical for me than mental for Errol Spence. On another note, William Skull won the vacant IBF super middleweight title yesterday with a unanimous decision over Vladimir Shishkin. Apparently, he wasn't that impressive. I only saw highlights, actually, man. I didn't watch the fight in its entirety. What didn't look like the most exciting fight, so I probably won't. I don't think, from what I've sort of read or seen, that he's done enough to warrant a Canelo Alvarez fight. So he's probably going to have to be happy with hanging on to a meaningless IBF belt for the time being, actually, man. Unless maybe Canelo wants that maybe in-between fight in Japan and wants a quick gimme. Well, maybe that's where William Skull will come into it. Julian, Nikita threw the towel in before serious injuries to his brother. Yeah. Yes, as they say, brother's love is a brother's love. At this point, just has to take one fight at a time, comeback fight versus a journeyman, then Zarafa in a stadium, then see what happens from there. Well said, D-Style. Pound for pound king. Buckram is a very humble dude. After beating Tim, knowing he had a few digs at him, he still offered Tim to come train with him and share their experiences together. Yeah, he did look like a really classy guy, mate, didn't he? And it's good to see. I mean, deep down, they're still both from that Russian heritage. They're both sort of brothers in arms, if you will. And I think, look, Tim said a couple of disparaging things, but I don't think they're anything to really get excited about. All right, unknown Samoan. Tim has the tools and the attributes to come back. Cheering for you, Tim. Whatever you decide, it would be good if you could shut these keyboard warriors up. Yeah. D-Style says, I really hope Paro beats Hitchens. I can't stand that guy's boring style. It's going to be a tough one, D-Style, but I think Paro gets the job done. I really do. Yes, Daniel, another underrated fighter is Paro. Yeah, nobody can ever question Tim being a warrior. The problem with being known as a warrior means that you have taken punishment and can take more and more. Yeah, probably not a good man, what do you call it, a nickname, whatever, David, is it? Arturo Gatti was the same. It didn't help him later in life where he would have been, probably having all sorts of dramas upstairs with the amount of punishment that he took. And, of course, the fight fans aren't the ones that are taking punches, and it's great they call you a warrior, but I think I'd rather be in the Floyd Mayweather mould where you're just winning fights with minimal punishment. But anyway. Hang on, Big J. Interesting question. Who had a worse 2024, Carlton or Tim? Probably Tim Zoo, Big J. Had the fight earlier this year with Fundora, and then what turned out to be a bad dream turned into an absolute nightmare yesterday. So I would have to say Tim. And let's lay off the Carlton jokes until next year, Big J. It's been a tough year, and then the footy season's over now, so I'm not talking about footy anymore. All right, let's talk about Barkram, says Ryan Gray. Can he unify in your opinion? I think he can personally. He's different? Yeah, well, based on yesterday, Ryan, no reason why he can't. I mean, Crawford would be a whole different ball game to what we saw yesterday. And, of course, different styles, all that sort of stuff. I'd still back Crawford to beat Barkram, if I'm being honest. I think Madrimov would give Barkram a good fight, and I think Bolachuk would give him a good fight, again, just style-wise. I think Virgil Ortiz would maybe have him covered. I don't know. I mean, geez, you're talking to someone, Ryan, or asking someone that thought Tim would win quite easily yesterday. So I don't know why you're asking me for. I'm no one to judge, but that would be my assessment. Barkram Murtazalov is definitely a lot better fighter than I thought he was. I'm sure a lot of you thought he was, but can he unify? Well, hopefully he gets that opportunity. I really do. I'm a big fan of his now, and I'll be getting right behind him in his career now. Nikita threw the towel when Balboa didn't. Yeah, I'm thinking about Rocky IV as well, man. Like, throw the damn towel. Batman, anyone signed to Aegis can fight, but that being said, I still felt like everyone Tim was going to smash him. Still so shocked, yep. How does a class fighter recover mentally? Or how did you use to recover mentally after a loss? Well, it's a lot easier, Julian, when you're an amateur fighter and you just get outscored. It's a little bit different to what happened to Tim yesterday, and that's the beauty of being an amateur, I suppose. But in the pros, I mean, look, as I said, I think it just takes time, and a lot of these guys are confidence athletes. I think it's just going to take time for Tim to mentally just try and get through this. Get away from the Australian media, the Australian boxing public, the fans, and have a couple of easy tune-up fights and get the confidence back, and then maybe have the confidence to then maybe go that next step and try a few different things. And Julian, it just takes time, mate, and that's all. And staying away from the type of fighters that you're vulnerable to initially. Do not fight a puncher first up, no matter what level they're at. All right, I'm just going to go through a few there. Sorry if I've missed a few here, guys. I'll just get to a few. Hang on, we're talking about Bedell, are we? What do we got here? What's that, D-Style? You should enable Super Chat. You don't ask people or anything, but some people will support. I use my YouTube money to help amateur boxers, usually do local fighters, but part too much. That's a good Good theory there, D-Style. Yeah, maybe I could do that. Maybe we could start the D-Style Travel to Australia Fund, and we'll get the super chat going. Yeah, I should do that, D-Style. Yeah, as I said, I've never really done this for the money, but not a bad theory there, mate. We might use it for charity or to give to some amateur boxers or whatever it might be. What do we got here? I'll go back a little bit. Would Tim get credit for beating Zarafa after the way he went out in the US? Probably not. Pound for pound king. Zarafa fight does nothing for Zoo's future, win or lose. Probably not, Peter, but maybe they might see it that way as well and think, well, Zarafa's a very, very winnable fight. It's a big money fight, so that's the fight we'll take. Tim needs a DC level opponent right now, so who else do you prefer? Tim stays in America, he will get used up. Devilish behaviour here. Hard to know who is a man and who is a woman. Yeah. Oh, jeez, Canelo, Jesus. Peter, I phoned SEN about Opataya after he beat Massey, and they didn't even have an idea who he was. I listened to SEN as well, Peter, and I reckon I might, if that was you, I reckon I heard that. Told them they need to educate themselves. How about an hour a week on SEN? How good? That would be the go, Peter. I know, is it the Who the Fuck podcast? I think they get on there. I'd love to do a TV radio show down there, Peter. I've actually got a bit of an in down there. A guy that I know pretty well, Paul Sebastiani, does I think it's the horse racing, but he's a big Carlton man as well. Maybe I could have a chat to him and do the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock shift. That's probably about all I'd get. Actually, probably that's wishing a bit or aiming a bit high. It could be the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning shift, I reckon, for the boxing. But I like the idea, Peter. I'd love to do it. I'd love to get on there and talk boxing and get talking callers and all that sort of stuff. It'd be fantastic. A little bit like what we're doing here, I suppose, but all right, we'll keep going through there. Oh, yeah, D-Style helped Cooper O'Connell as he's going to US for the Worlds. Yeah, not a bad suggestion there, mate. To be honest, says Jules, I found Bedell's comments tasteless. I know he needs to be balanced, but a guy who flies around the world and makes a living calling zoo fights, calling Tim arrogant straight after. Where's the rest of it there? I didn't see the rest of it there. Yeah, no, not a bad comment there, Jules. I actually was probably a little bit the opposite. I actually thought, geez, you got some balls, mate. Having a go at Tim when you're over there on to report on that and probably write favourable stories. I thought it was pretty bold, but thanks, D-Style. I appreciate that, mate. You'd support it. Let's get it going. You might have to let me know how to do it though, because I wouldn't have a clue. I'm sure I can YouTube it. How to start a super chat. Prioritise comments. Okay. All right. I'll look into it. All right. A few more comments and we will call it a night. What have we got? A few minutes to go. Batman, 6-fight plan, 2 obscure opponents, then Zarafa, Thurman, Smith, Charlo, then whoever maybe at 160. I don't count Thurman, Batman. I know he was at the fights the other day and actually spoke pretty well. He did a few interviews that I saw and he did speak well. But, mate, the guy's had one fight in 5.5 years. I mean, surely we can't sort of rate him. Maybe he could be, if he does want to get back in there and be that comeback type of opponent, big name, but minimal risk as far as power and everything goes. Still a capable boxer, though, so let's not write him off. But I still think we're a long way from that as well, Batman. What do you got there? So 2 obscure opponents. Yeah, that's a definite. Yeah, Zarafa. I think by the time that happens, Thurman's probably well and truly gone, Batman. But, yeah, I don't mind that. Liam Smith, I'm assuming you're talking about there. And it would take some impressive performances in those fights for me to feel comfortable against Charlo. Bill says, my opinion, Tim can't have his dad train him. Costa was great, but Tim is totally different style. Weight, everything. My opinion, Costa's presence was part of the issue of this bad loss. Just my opinion. Well, that's your opinion, mate, and you are welcome to it, and it does make a lot of sense. We'll get you here, D-Style. We'll get you here eventually, mate. You might have to travel at the back of the plane and on the back of the plane and on early morning flight with being cheap, but we'll get you here some way, mate. You might have to sleep on the floor of someone's house, but we'll get you here one way or another. And the super chat makes good sense. Who are your top 5 in the 154-pound division? Geez, you've put me on the spot with a few minutes to go there, Dave. I would think still Crawford number 1. I'd have Victor Ortiz at number 2. I would probably have Murtazaliev at number 3. Fundora at 4. Am I missing someone? Madrimov at 5. I think I've got that right. I don't know. All right, let me know if I've got that wrong. I think I've probably forgotten someone. Anyway, they had a boxing show in SEN years ago with Stephen J. Peake and Troy Zantuck. Okay, well, maybe there's hope yet. Maybe I'll put the word in. How can anyone talk boxing in Australia and not know who Jai is? That's crazy, because down here, mate, we live at the tail end of the world, and sometimes it's get lost a little bit in what's important and what's not. D-Style, mate, I'm sure it's the same over there. Mate, they gave our women's soccer team, who finished 4th at the World Championships, a mural or statue, whatever the hell it was, a monument, whatever you might want to call it. That's how well we're going down here in Australia, where you finish 4th and you get a statue above people that are doing great things. Same as they had Performance of the Year or Sports Person of the Year or Sports Performance of the Year. In 2021, George Kambosos beating Teofimo Lopez wasn't even nominated, D-Style. Our men's basketball team, who finished 3rd at the Olympics, got the Performance of the Year. 3rd they finished, ahead of George Kambosos. That's all I'm saying. We've got our heads up our asses down this part of the world, mate. Fair dinkum. All right. A couple more comments and we will be done. Canelo's High Guard says, D-Style, you built your channel off of Canelo back, but now you turn on him. Okay. How's all those new Benavides super chats working out? Hey, well, we will let Canelo, High Guard, and D-Style sort that out on your channel, D-Style. I'm sure that you'll sort it out at some stage down the track, and Canelo, High Guard will make an appearance on the round table, and you guys can duke it out on there. All right, 2 more comments. I believe Tim is everything the media has said. He just got caught, says Meldon Orr. Yep, good point, Meldon. I know, respect your opinion, mate. I know you've been there and done that, so I'm with you there, mate. All the analysis of the side to the side, he just got nailed, and it is what it is. So, Opatai should be the Sportsman of the Year in Australia. 100%, Peter. But guess what? 95% of the people here wouldn't have a clue. Actually, make that about 98.5%. Have no idea who he is. No idea. It's ridiculous. All right, Australia is too woke, left-wing Labor tools. Yes, I agree, Peter. And on that note, we will call it a night. Guys, really appreciate you all tuning in. We had a really good viewership tonight, so I appreciate that again. What's that there? Did Ray go and get an award? Probably, Peter. Sorry, D-Style that was. Probably, mate. Probably. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Really also appreciate everyone that has been watching the walking boxing, the reviews, all the rest of it. And we're trying to grow the channel, and any suggestions you might have for anything that we might do, I am going to try and get back to doing some of this in-studio type of stuff too. I think the top 10s might be the next one. We do the Australian and pound for pound if I get a chance this week. And, of course, we'll see what we can do with the deep dive show as well. We can get that up and going as well. So we'll see how we go. But, guys, have a great week. And until next Monday, we will catch you then.